I'm not going to lie. I think Nick Fuentes is fucking hilarious, but I've never really understood how he came to be. We have an entire documentary, a 20-minute summary of the truth about Nick Fuentes. And the reason why I like talking about Nick Fuentes, as well as people like Paul Miller or Myron Gaines, is because you're told to not to. They're banned on almost every single platform. So I like figuring out exactly why that is.
We want Nick! 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 We want Nick!
Wow. Good intro. This is nice.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. Welcome to the 2014 Speech Team Regional Performance.
So by the way, is he Mexican? Because Fuentes is about just the most Mexican name I've ever heard of.
Since the day Trump entered the political arena, the American right wing has become unrecognizable from itself today. The Republican Party insisted for decades that it was made up of colorblind meritocrats who treasured the consent-based morality of the West and the free marketplace of ideas that it offered. But it's since
I truly don't know any mass ideation that people are claiming the right has undergone. I see it with the left very dramatically. It's fucking ridiculous. The right has more or less stayed the same, to be completely honest.
Faced a crisis of performative contradictions. And the most incriminating yet somehow previously undetectable issue that's shattered the current right-wing lens is the nation of Israel. And at the age of 18, one kid pointed this out and he saw his entire world collapse around him. No mercy was given and no good faith rebuttal was provided. The response to these mere questions was an orchestrated, malicious, controlled demolition of a child's life and reputation. And if anybody mentioned this extreme reaction, it would only confirm their...
What is this? Why are they putting on a hat and touching a wall? This is something to do with the Jews, right? Why do they do this? Does anybody know? Yeah, he's a Mexican from Chicago. Oh, okay, that's interesting. He looks like a white guy. He sounds like a white guy. I would have never guessed that he's Mexican.
Own personal involvement in the heresy. And so, as intended, nobody came to his defense. Nicholas Joseph Fuentes was born on August 18th, 1998 to a middle-class Catholic family outside of Chicago.
1998? I'm 5 years older than this man? Jesus. That's weird as shit to me.
He's described himself as always having been interested in politics, and that he used to be a typical right-wing Republican with neocon and libertarian sensibilities.
Sure.
Until the Trump era began.
Another Republican joining the race, but this one like no other, Donald Trump.
And so it began.
Yeah, but think of the content that has happened because of Trump. And think about how many people are talking about politics now because of Trump. Because politics are finally fun to talk about because we got the entertainment president. You know what I mean? Say what you want about Donald Trump, but man, he's an entertainer. You know what I mean? Like his shit with WWE, Bobby Lashley, Vince McMahon back in the day, peak entertainment.
Once he graduated
Bro
from
knows
Lyons
how to
Township
get people
High,
to talk.
Nick went on to Boston University, where he became known as a prominent Trump supporter during a time when open support for the soon-to-be president was basically social suicide.
Sure.
But Nick's
That's fair.
entry into the political sphere really came when he debated the senior and president of the BU student government during his freshman year. After participating in a video put on by Boston University called Who I'll Be Voting For, Nick stated his intention to vote for Trump, which then instigated the debate. The original video has since been taken down by the school. Even Nick was still under the spell of the neocons back then. As he told the crowd, "It has nothing to do with race, everything to do with culture. Asia has taken our culture and done well for themselves. The Middle East, not so much." Even though his performance wasn't publicized in any meaningful mainstream way, it grabbed the attention of some of the right-wing outlets that were desperate to recruit the Gen Z youth. The Daily Wire and other relevant figures had...
That is where Nick Fuentes has a lot of power. Wait, I know this guy. Fuck, I follow him on Twitter. I believe his name's Milo. This guy has a very deadly combination of two words that he loves to use, which, man, it's crazy hearing the shit he says in 2026. Bro just rips it. Yeah, Nick Fuentes definitely has a huge stranglehold on the Republican youth. And so a lot of the Democrats and a lot of the media actually fear him because they know he has influence. They know he has power.
identified him as a
Milo
soon-to-be
Yiannopoulos,
star with enormous potential.
So I did
He's gay? Ugh.
something on the campus. I debated the class president or whatever. It's a long story how it got going, and that's how I actually met Cassie Dillon. She live streamed it on Periscope, and she told me after the fact, she said, Ben Shapiro watched it, and I told him he needs to take you under his wing.
Nick now seemed happy with the trajectory he was on. He started hosting a show on the Right Side Broadcasting Network, which he called America First. And even though it received little attention, he trudged along as he was inducted into the media world of the right wing. And as Trump continued to initiate the political revolution that was to come, Nick noticed an exception to the tenets of the new right-wing movement. It was an exception that was made without reason or even consistency. The unconditional support of Israel.
And the show wasn't even big. I had like 100 live viewers.
Yeah, I still don't really understand the overwhelming abundance for support for Israel for almost no reason. My firm belief is that Americans should be taken care of before any other country. If you are running America, it is your job to serve Americans first. Obviously, I am okay with intermingling with other nations, warfare, if it leads to American lives becoming better, or if it prevents a catastrophe from befalling American citizens. But if it doesn't involve us or doesn't make our lives better, stop wasting money. Stop letting American soldiers die for other countries. It's quite simple, in my opinion.
So I would get 1,000 views per episode, but they were on top of this. And even Ben Shapiro, he quote tweeted one of my tweets and said, because I said something to the effect of, if you're a Mexico first, live in Mexico. If you're China first, live in China.
Absolutely.
If you're Israel
Assange should go live in China.
First, live in Israel.
Yeah.
And he
makes
quote
sense.
tweets me on Christmas Eve and says, well, that's the surest sign you're an anti-Semite, is to accuse a Jew of dual loyalty. And I'm sitting there like, it's true. You do have dual loyalty.
He then began to see the response to any criticism of Israel or any Jewish person more generally as being smeared as inherently anti-Semitic. This was a foreign country with a higher average living standard than the United States that the U.S.
It's not anti-Semitic to say that if you support Israel more than you support America, then you're Israel first and you should go live there. That's not anti-Semitic at all. Nor is that if you say that about any other country in the same regard. So that's complete bullshit that he got flagged for that. That's crazy.
was sending money to, while the MAGA movement claimed to be against foreign aid.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. The American people will come first once again.
Israel was also proudly an ethno-state, while
That
the broader
would be nice.
Republican world had been desperate
But it
to
still
reject
doesn't seem
any
that
form
way.
of racial exclusivity.
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture.
I don't believe that our unifying principle was ever race, skin color, ethnicity. Our unifying principle was essentially a doctrine. It was a doctrine of human rights.
Nick asked the questions. What was going on with Israel? And isn't this style of support for them contradicting our principles?
I said, why does the United States give Israel $3.8 billion per year? What do you make of this whole arrangement? I said, is it because they are our closest ally and I'm missing something? I said, or are we being lobbied? And there's this deep contradiction and double standard, and it's obviously being enforced by foreign influence and money.
It's actually very interesting. I am curious, Chad. When was the last time Israel backed America in a war? They all licked Israel's boots. So does this retard think that if you support Trump, you support everything he does? That's how liberals think. That is how a lot of people think. I'm not going to lie. I mean, listen, man, I'm not a big advocate of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, I can even acknowledge that Hitler was a great painter. You know what I mean? Like, just because someone does something bad doesn't mean that everything they've done is bad. Yeah, I've never seen anybody properly explain, why does the United States support Israel so much? What have they done for us?
And I remember they hated the line of questioning.
And when you say they, you're referring to this friend group?
Yes.
Okay.
This Daily Wire friend group. They were all writers there. And
you don't have to be an anti-Semite or hate Jews to just merely question, why does the United States give Israel so much support? That doesn't make you an anti-Semite. That just makes you wonder, yeah, why the fuck are they doing that? And I've still never seen a proper answer.
still find their articles online. And they, at first it was sort of playful. They said, oh, haha, very good. They almost thought I was joking. They said, oh, it's very funny, but you really shouldn't ask that, they would say. They'd say, there's a good answer for all those questions. They'd say, but the way you're asking it is anti-Semitic, they said. And, we're happy to talk with you one-on-one in person. Like, like they're going to teach me how to ask the question. They said, because the way you're saying it, it sounds hateful and it's wrong.
I always get irritated at people where they say, what you're saying is fine, but the way you're saying it isn't. It's just so fucking irritating to have to deal with. It's like, well, understand. If you understand that what I'm saying is fine, then just answer it and stop being a pussy.
6 years ago to the day, I did a debate on Twitch. They banned me on Twitch because I did so well, and they changed the terms of service to do it.
Jesus.
Banned on YouTube, banned on Twitch, banned on PayPal, banned on Stripe, banned from Bank of America, banned from Chase Bank, banned from US Bank, banned from Airbnb, banned from Delta Airlines, banned from CPAC, banned from Email Octopus, Authorized.net, banned from DLive, banned from Instagram, Facebook. I've been banned from shit you haven't even heard of.
That's crazy because I see all of his clips on Instagram all the time, but they're fan edits.
But what really gained Nick Fuentes' infamy was not his quarrels with the right-wing youth.
But Nick Fuentes is on Rumble, right? He is on Rumble? Well, good, man. That's great. I mean, I really think that goes to show that Rumble really is the platform that has the most free speech, which is crazy because it should be this way across the board. The problem is and the reason why more people don't want to swap to Rumble is because the user base is small because the issue isn't mainstream enough. But thankfully, people like, Nick Fuentes, Myron, they're at least pushing for it.
Centered outlets. It was his involvement in what was...
For me, it's very important to know that my streamer can talk and say what they want to say at all times. That's very important. That's why I don't think I'm ever going to leave Rumble. I really enjoy that I'm able to say whatever the fuck I want to say. Sure, is the chat slower? Yeah, but that's okay because the conversations we get to have are better.
Was eventually portrayed as the true yet hidden underbelly of the Trump movement.
When did you get to 100%? When did you know?
This is the first time I've ever seen Joe Biden in the wake.
This is something that I have to do for yourself.
Charlottesville.
The Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville happened in August of 2017, and it gave the media a great opportunity to skewer the growing support for Donald Trump as the very thing they wanted it to be all along, a Nazi-like fervor. It was also a wonderful photo op. Nick was publicly scrutinized for the participation and damned as the worst thing you could possibly be, a white racist man. Having now been stripped from the...
There's a difference between being racist and noticing patterns and talking about statistics. And I'm sorry, if you say that, if you're a white man and you say that blacks are more likely to commit violent crimes, you're not racist. You're merely just stating statistics. Or if you say that white people are more likely to commit incest, you're not racist. You're just pointing out statistics. But the problem is that people don't want you to point anything out and act like everybody is the same. The problem is that we're just not. Women aren't the same and all races aren't the same. And we all know that. So why are we pretending that we are? It's bullshit.
Mainstream track he had previously been on, Nick started uploading his show to YouTube in 2017. His viewership was not spectacular, but his following slowly grew over the next few years.
Damn.
He would soon garner what has been described as a cult-like following, and these followers are now widely known as groypers. Nick left Boston University once his freshman year ended, and he remained...
What the fuck is a groyper?
...in the underground of the right wing as he
What is that supposed to mean?
Was harassed and publicly smeared as a Holocaust denier and anti-Semite. But the questions being asked were legitimate, and
I've never seen Nick Fuentes deny the Holocaust. The only thing that I've seen him say is it wasn't 6 million Jews, it was 271,000. That's not denying the Holocaust. That's just saying that the numbers are exaggerated based off of what he gathered from. Is that even humanly possible? I feel like it's ridiculous that you can't even question shit, bro. Like, it's just a discussion to have.
Dismissal was not an answer. And that is what has become so obvious, that still, no one seems to want to give him an answer.
And, this is something that maybe is helpful to explain my mindset. I'm waiting for someone to prove me wrong. I'm pushing on all these narratives, the foreign aid, the Iraq war, all of it. And I'm waiting for someone to tell me, here's all the evidence, the obvious evidence.
Well, they're not going to give you evidence. They're just going to try to discredit you and get nobody to listen to you.
That it isn't all just a big thing. Mm-hmm. It's not just a big conspiracy. And I'm asking in good faith, where is that evidence? Cassie, my friend, and all the rest of them. And instead of getting an answer, I'm getting blocked. I'm getting tattled on. I'm getting clipped out of context. They're selling me out to the left. I'm getting called names.
Even with the terrible news coverage, he persisted with a nightly show without any help from a single mainstream right-wing outlet, and he kept asking the questions on the subjects that no one else would touch.
And I would even say that the Holocaust falls under this category. When I hear these stories about gassing your own people, stealing and kidnapping hundreds of thousands of kids, bombing orphanages, cutting babies off, it reminds me of all the stories about the Holocaust. Do you even know all of them? They say, for example, about the Holocaust, I mean, everyone knows the basic story. I always get grilled about it. They say, do you believe that 6 million died? Do you believe that they used gas chambers? And do you believe that it was a systematic extermination of the Jewish people? Those are the three concrete claims about the Holocaust that they enforce. But did you know that claims have been made by Holocaust survivors at various times in history that go far beyond those three things?
No.
Some have said, for example, that Jews in concentration camps were masturbated to death. That not
I've never heard of that in my entire life. No, there's not a genuine representative Jewish Holocaust survivor claim. It's a fringe debunked story from one discredited source that's frequently circulated in the Holocaust denial circus to mock or cast doubt on the event. Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard anything like that in my entire life. Me next.
Nazi scientists were experimenting on them with masturbation machines, and they were masturbating them to death. Do I have to believe that?
Since he was now essentially blacklisted from mainstream conservatism, he began building what has now become a...
Grok, is this true? So, okay, let me get this right. So I can't use Google, I can't use Twitter, I can't use Reddit, I can't use Wikipedia, I can't use YouTube, I can't even use Grok? Should I go to the library and read a book? The same books that say that white people are the only ones that have slaves? Who am I allowed to ask a single question to? Jesus.
Parallel right-wing movement. It rejects the pluralistic, classically liberal modern right and cultivates both a nationalist and racialist ethic that's predicated on Christian priors rather than the libertarian and market-centered presuppositions of the more palatable new right. He even started his own annual event called AFPAC, this being a response to his banning from CPAC and Turning Point USA events.
Good.
I think I remember you in Orlando. I was in Orlando. Yeah, I remember you kicked me out there too.
I think it's ridiculous when you ban people for simply having a conversation. Now, I can understand why you would want to ban Hassan Piker for communication, because his communication involves inciting his audience to go kill people in real life. However, so far, I've just seen Nick Fuentes ask questions about, is history being told as the truth? And I see him being banned everywhere for it, just like Alex Jones got banned from everything for merely asking, are these events real? And by the way, 10 years later, Alex Jones was proven right.
I probably did. Or maybe it was Dallas, I don't remember. Dan, it's great to see you. Why did you give a 45-minute speech about me at Stanford, and you won't even look at me? Come on, I'm right here.
He spent the next few years in the underground fostering a larger following while also completing his associate's degree. But it was in
I like Nick, but groypers would go a bit far. I've never had an experience with the groypers yet.
2020 that Nick would receive another targeted lashing from the powers that be. Fuentes was at the Stop the Steal rally at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, where he helped stir up the crowd. And while he never entered the Capitol itself,
Listen, man, I'm a very easygoing guy. I like giving everybody the benefit of the doubt and at least hear their side out. And as long as they're not inciting violence on anybody, I'm pretty much okay with all walks of life. However, I'm not okay with people promoting transgenderism. And you want to know why? Because that directly harms children.
Didn't stop the government from coming after him. The persecution then continued as Nick was permanently banned from YouTube and he was forced even deeper underground. Nick was able to find some autonomy through the online platform called Cozy TV, where he aired his show following the ban. Once the free speech website Rumble increased in relevancy, Nick started uploading his America First episodes there. His following began to snowball, and as his prominence grew, we saw one of the most surprising collaborations of all time. Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, posted that he was in communication with Nick. And after Ye had his own public denunciation of Jewish power, They came out together on multiple occasions for some very viral moments.
Yo, you know I'm here with my white supremacist homeboy Nick. We back.
You know, blacks are overrepresented in violent crime. But when you meet an individual black person, you don't apply that. You start with a fresh slate every time you meet someone. Do you do that with Jews? Nope.
In 2022, a dinner took place between Ye, Nick, and Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Nick was only 24 years old at the time.
Wait, Ye, Nick, and Trump are homies? What the f is going on?
He was yet again smeared as being worse than the devil.
Meeting of the mindless at Mar-a-Lago. We learned on Friday that Trump had dinner with Kanye West and a white supremacist / Holocaust denier named Nick Fuentes.
After Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter following his insistence that he was a champion of free speech, he reluctantly allowed Nick back onto Twitter, now called X. Through the freedom...
I don't give a f what anybody says. I think Elon Musk has done some of the best, some of the most good for the world, some of the most good in the United States history. Whether you think he's retarded or not, I don't care. Tesla's full self-drive is incredible and a great step for making driving even more safe, as well as very convenient and comfortable for all drivers, massively increasing quality of life as a Tesla owner myself, as well as bringing free speech back on the internet. I think it's great. I think he's done a lot of good.
That Rumble provided in this new access to X, Nick's relevance and popularity skyrocketed. His infamy had grown to such a degree that he was even made the target of an assassination attempt in December of 2024.
Jesus.
And it's curious to notice just how little coverage or support he received in response to it.
I've never even heard about that. That's crazy. That's what they do, man. When you're saying things they don't want you to say, they just fucking kill you. It's crazy, bro. It's
Throughout the many
fucking
years
crazy.
filled with smears and exclusion, there has still not been a single mainstream right-wing figure who has consistently defended Nick from the start. Even Tucker Carlson recently moved from ignoring to now mocking him, and he still refuses to have him on.
Nick Fuentes, this child, this weird little gay kid in his basement in Chicago.
Nick's posts on X responding to mainstream conservatives like Charlie Kirk get enormous engagement and almost always ratio the original poster in a matter of minutes. But these figures still go through whatever lengths they can to pretend he doesn't exist, while they shamelessly announce their undying support of free speech. It's an inexcusable performative contradiction.
I say, if you truly believe in open debate in the marketplace of ideas, will you ever be willing to debate Nick Fuentes, or will you wait until his movement forces you to adopt his talking points, as we've seen already?
You know, it's funny. I personally do not give a platform to bad faith actors.
But now in mid-2025, we see clips of Nick being played on CNN and other left-wing outlets.
Very rare Charlie Kirk L.
And he's treated as a legitimate spokesman on the right. Now this may be for the utility of bashing Trump's base or showing Nick's humor as being indicative of extremism. But regardless, this is clearly a much different landscape than when the young Fuentes was relegated to cozy TV. And this ascension to now being taken as a serious commentator strikes me as the political equivalent of when Nirvana went mainstream. Nick didn't go to the mainstream came to him. And the event which is the most blatant evidence of Nick's influence on the actual mainstream culture is the song and video released by Ye, Hail Hitler. And without Nick's early involvement...
We can at least acknowledge that the beat goes pretty hard, right? We can acknowledge that even though you don't like the song, we can admit that it goes kind of hard. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying here.
In the Jewish question, I can guarantee the culture would not be where it is today. But what is truly inexcusable is the refusal to answer the questions being asked in good faith. The right wing claims to be opposed to censorship. They say they are free speech absolutists. They proudly announce their side as a free marketplace of ideas, except for when it comes to one particular country with one particular ethnicity. But what fails to be addressed is the fact that if Nick's political propositions are true, the implications are not just catastrophic to the post-war liberal order consensus, but to all political models more generally. And the main fundamental argument which all things seem to flow from is that there are genetic, inherent differences between the races, which results in the disparities we see in racial performance outcomes, intelligence, and general behavior patterns. Because if this is true, and it continues to be denied integration into our political models, then we can assure ourselves that a dreary fate for our society has officially been secured. Because if the original diagnosis is not correct, then the prescription by definition can never be correct.
Makes sense.
And the mainstream Jewish-funded right-wing forces won't even give an answer to try and refute the conclusions drawn by Nick. There's a deep tendency.
I wonder if any of this has changed over the past 8 months of when this was published. I wonder if anything by Nick Fuentes was actually refuted that he's proclaimed. I'll have to look into that.
To consider something as truthful only when it is sourced from an individual or an institution we respect. Just revisit the advice given by the ordained experts during Corona for endless evidence of that, or the article from George Clooney which then directed the acceptable discourse on Biden's mental state. But truth does not lie in a person or an institution simply due to who or what the vessel is. Truth is demonstrable in one thing only: predictive power. Nothing else matters. No credential, last name, or job title counts for anything. Accurate, consistent predictions are the only measuring tool for the evaluation of truth. And if any model that is being used to predict continues to be accurate, it must be in some way rooted in truth. And what cannot be denied is that Nick Fuentes' political model has made consistently accurate predictions.
And that's the reason why a lot of people love Asmongold as well. He's done a very good job of predicting current trends in our, society. And that's why people come to me for a lot of my streamer takes, because I've just predicted a lot of these people's ill behavior months, years in advance, consistently. I warned everybody correctly about like 45 different streamers, not vague posting, but directly saying their fucking names, as well as calling out entire social circles that I was right about with 100% truth in its entirety. So I get it. If someone's right that often, it's worth listening to what they say is going to happen next.
Israel benefits from the attack by Hamas because now they get to solve the Gaza question finally. Now they get to go in and kill them all and ethnically cleanse this region. In doing so, they know they're provoking and basically an unavoidable retaliation. There's an unavoidable reciprocal attack by these Iranian militias against Israel. And all that does is give Israel an excuse to do what they always wanted to do, which is to bomb Iran's centrifuges, which is their nuclear program. And if they do that, then Iran is in a war with Israel, and then they draw the United States into a war with Iran. And they get the crown jewel, what they always wanted, which is an end to the regime in Syria and an end to the regime in Iran. And that seems to be the big play that Israel is making. People say, well, if Trump gets...
I'm confused why it's bad to end Iran's regime. Because their regime was horrible. I mean, they were murdering 36,000 people in their own country just in January. Obviously, something needed to happen. However, I do agree that it wasn't the United States of America's business in order to do so. At least not to my knowledge right now.
Gets elected, he'll be better on tech censorship. Trump is implying he'll use the government to crack down on so-called anti-Semitism on the internet. That's what Republicans are doing right now. That's what all the Zionist donors are complaining about, is the anti-Semitism on TikTok and X. So I'm
not our problem. No, I absolutely agree with you. It is not our problem to solve. And American soldiers shouldn't die to solve that issue. Absolutely. I've said that very clear at the beginning of the stream. Yeah.
Actually less confident that Trump will allow us to have our free speech than we would under a Democratic administration.
I said that before you came on. I said, listen, I have guests on that are consistently right. You can disagree with overall your views or whatever, but you've been dead on. So my North Star is who's the most accurate. That's what I have on. So you did predict all this, which makes me physically ill. So what? Look at the crystal ball, Nick Fuentes. What is going to happen, and then what do we do?
And if his predictions continue to be correct.
I've seen that interview. I saw his response. The problem was Nick Fuentes had no solution for the issue that we were in. It would have been pretty credible if he had the solution there, which is a bummer, because it's one thing to just say, bah, 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 all this is happening and it's bad. But if he were to really to say, bah, 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 all this horrible shit is happening, this is what we should do, I feel like that would have been a huge upswing.
What would this imply about
It's a shame he missed that.
His other beliefs? Given no credible challenges are offered and instead we've seen desperate smearing and censorship, it seems to be very obvious what the implications are. Something must not be right with the program's societal worldview. And what Nick Fuentes is calling out appears to be pressing on the very things that expose the lies that this consensus is based on. But despite this
Nick is a plant. Nick can't be a plant, bro. He's banned on everything. That makes no sense.
struggle, what we do know for sure is that the lies cannot prevail. The truth will win out.
And the only reason that I'm telling you this now is because if anything happens to me, this is what you need to do. The project of the free people of America, the project of American sovereignty, of Christian nationalists, of anybody that cares about our independence, as the 1776 movement, as the new American Revolution, is to, just as they started newspapers and campus groups and book clubs and published books and made movies, we need to expose what they are doing in the same way. And the reason I'm telling you all this now is so that you can finish it if I can't. Because I won't even let death stop me.
I mean, that is the truth. I mean, if they were to kill Nick Fuentes, that would be the biggest mistake they would have ever made. Because it's like the same thing with Charlie Kirk. Killing Charlie Kirk didn't silence him. And I know this is kind of cringe to say, but killing Charlie Kirk made millions more Charlie Kirks. You know, it's the truth. Nothing was more radicalizing than seeing someone get murdered for merely having the same rhetoric as my grandfather or my great-grandfather. They killed him because he was like us. And if they were to kill Nick Fuentes for the same thing, that's only going to make his message louder. It's very interesting knowing kind of the origin story now.